So, what happens when you get a $500 billion handshake? Well, that's exactly what's at the core of the new trade deal between India and the US. Today, we're going to unpack what this huge agreement really means for both economies and why it's sending some serious shockwaves through the financial world. And believe me, the market's reaction was immediate. I mean, just look at this quote. It comes from a top investment strategist, and it just nails the shift in feeling. This shows you it wasn't just another political announcement, right? This was a powerful signal, one that completely flipped a major investment trend almost overnight. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down for you. First up, we'll dive into that immediate market reaction, those shockwaves we talked about. Then, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, the actual terms of the deal. After that, we'll see who the big winners are in both India and the US. And to wrap it up, we'll zoom out and look at the road ahead. All right, Section 1, a landmark agreement. Let's talk about how the markets reacted to the news. The very first sign that this was a really big deal, not just another photo op, came straight from the trading floors. The stock market's response? It was absolutely electric. You just have to look at this number, 8,980 crore rupees. After a whole month of selling off, foreign investors did a complete 180. They poured, get this, over $1 billion back into the Indian market in just 4 days. That's more than just a vote of confidence, you know? That kind of cash flow is absolutely crucial for stabilizing the currency and fueling growth down the line. And what's so interesting here is that this wasn't just a few tech stocks getting a little boost. No way. We're talking about a huge, broad-based rally. The big ones, the Sensex and Nifty 50, they just shot up. But look at that, a 3% jump in the public sector bank index. Now that's telling. It signals that investors believe this deal strengthens the very foundation of India's economy. Okay, moving on to part 2, inside the deal's terms. So what exactly is in this agreement that got everybody so excited? What's the secret sauce here? Let's peel back the layers and take a look at the key commitments from both sides. And this is really where you see the art of the deal in action. It's a classic give and take, a real balancing act. On one side, India is basically rolling out the red carpet for American industrial and farm goods and committing to a massive shopping spree. And in return, the US is slashing tariffs on some of India's most important exports, giving them a major leg up in the competition. Now, this 18% number, this is a real game changer. Why? Because it replaces a really confusing and often more expensive system of duties. For Indian exporters in huge sectors like textiles and leather, this means one thing: predictability. And that's exactly what you need to grow and thrive in a market as big as America's. And then there's this, $500 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't just a vague promise, folks. This is a massive strategic move by India to buy high-value American goods. We're talking energy products, aircraft, high-end tech. The whole idea is to fundamentally rebalance the trade relationship between the two countries. And look, while that huge $500 billion commitment is a cornerstone of the deal, it's definitely not the only thing going on. For some of India's most critical export industries like generic pharma and gems, this deal is an absolute home run. Getting rid of tariffs on these goods means they become instantly, and I mean instantly, more competitive. All right, Section 3, impact on Indian sectors. So let's bring this down to the ground level. What does all this actually mean for the companies and the workers in India? Which industries really stand to gain? Well, this list is basically a who's who of major Indian exports. For the generic pharmaceutical and gem industries, this is like a golden ticket. Zero tariffs opens up a direct path to the world's biggest consumer market. And for sectors like textiles, leather, and home decor, it creates a much more stable and predictable playing field. Either way you slice it, it's a massive boost for their bottom line. But hey, this is not a one-way street. Let's look at the impact on U.S. sectors. This deal is also a huge opportunity for American companies. We're talking about opening the door to India's massive market. That's over 1 billion consumers who are eager for American products. So for these U.S. sectors, this is just a massive win. A lot of these industries have been trying to get a real foothold in the Indian market for years, but they've been held back by high tariffs and a ton of red tape. Well, now, everything from American tree nuts and fruits to high-tech medical devices and GPUs will have a much, much easier time reaching Indian homes and businesses. Okay, so this is obviously a huge step forward, but it's really important to remember that this isn't the final destination. This is an interim deal, which means it's just the start of a much longer journey. So that brings us to Section 5, the road ahead. What comes next? Well, the ultimate goal, the end game here, is what's called a full bilateral trade agreement, or a BTA. The easiest way to think about it is like the supersized version of what we have now. It's a much more comprehensive pact that would cover pretty much every single aspect of trade and investment between the two countries. So how do they get from here to there? It's basically a three-step process. Step 1, finalizing the framework for this interim deal. That's done. Step 2, putting it all into action and adjusting the tariffs. That's happening as we speak. But the real prize is step 3, using all the momentum and goodwill from this deal to negotiate that much bigger, more comprehensive bilateral trade agreement. And all of this really brings us to the big final question, doesn't it? Is this just another trade deal, or is it something much more? Are we actually witnessing the first step, the birth of a brand new economic partnership between the world's two largest democracies? A partnership that could truly reshape the global balance of power for decades to come? Only time will tell. And that's all we've got for this explainer. If you found this breakdown useful, do us a quick favor and hit that like button. Share it with anyone you think might be interested, and of course, subscribe for more. We really want to know what you think about this deal, so let us know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in.